Retirement is one of the most important financial and life decisions people make. It's not just about money, it's about ensuring peace of mind, security, and the freedom to enjoy later years without constant financial stress. Welcome to this exciting episode of Money Matters. I'm your host, Faith Katai. Today on the program, we are focusing on how to prepare for a decent retirement. My guest in the studio is a retirement advisor, Mr. JUSTINE Kangwa. Mr. Kangwa, welcome to Money Matters.
Thank you, and I'm glad you invited me.
Okay, just to start with, tell us, how does a decent retirement look like?
When you are working before you retire, when you're active, you're still young, there's a certain way you project yourself, and there's a certain way you want to be perceived by other people. Basically, you can say you are in charge, to a great degree, in charge of the way you look, the way you present yourself. You have this dignity here. Now, a decent retirement is a lifestyle that will still give you an opportunity to maintain that dignity. You don't want to fail to look after yourself, to depend on other people, to beg. That's not the kind of life that you would want to lead in retirement. In other words, you also want to continue living to a great extent the way you are living. Should you downgrade your standard of living, it should be, the drop should not be that drastic. Yeah. So you still want to maintain that dignity, to look after yourself, take care of your bills, visit the places that you want to visit. Yeah. And not to be a beggar, to be a burden on somebody else. Yeah. Because that robs you of your dignity.
Great. Ideally, when should people start planning for retirement?
People should start planning for retirement the very first day they get their job, when they enter the job market. Now, for those who might be watching us and they did not do so, the next best time is now, as they are listening to this program. Because, there's still life after retirement. You could retire at 55 and still live on for another 35 years. So if you don't prepare, it means that you're going to be in problems. So the longer time you have to prepare, the better. And that's how come we advise people to start preparing for retirement when they just get their first job. Yeah.
Awesome. So are there consequences of delaying to plan for retirement?
Yes, they are there. I'm sure you've worked with people who have since retired, and when you see them 2 to 3 years after retirement, they look like they've never worked before. They look like some of them are beggars. Some of them continue coming to the workplace, maybe asking for this and that. They cannot even feed themselves. And that actually is a sign that they didn't prepare adequately for retirement. Yeah, so there are consequences, visible consequences, and this country is not short of people who did not prepare adequately, or some of them left the preparation at the last minute, and now you can see it in the way they look. Yeah.
Okay, what are the most common mistakes people make when planning for retirement?
One mistake people make is to think that their children will look after them when they retire in old age. So they don't deliberately start planning for their own retired life, thinking that your children will look after you, which is a mistake. Because some of one test I give to people when I'm talking to groups of people preparing for retirement, I always ask them a question to say, those of you still have parents, let me know whether you support them consistently and adequately, like on a monthly basis. And you find that some of them will say, me after 3 months, after 4 months, and I say, so if you cannot adequately and consistently look after your parents, what makes you think that your children will look after you? You reap what you sow. And if I ask them, why don't you look after your parents consistently and adequately? The answer they will give is that, no, I don't earn enough. No, I have my own responsibilities. And I tell them that your children will have the same reasons, same good reasons for not looking after you. So thinking that your children will look after you is a big mistake, because they may not do so for a number of reasons. One of them is that they may not just be able to do it. Maybe their earnings will not be much. Or you never know what they will turn out to be. Sometimes they may have the ability, but they just neglect you. Or sometimes the worst can happen. What if you outlive them? They die before you. And then you have invested everything thinking that they look after you. So that's one mistake, think that your children look after you. Another mistake that people make is that when they retire, they want to retire with their status. The same way you are looking, the same way your lifestyle, you don't want to change when you retire. And yet, your current lifestyle is funded by your employment. Most of your lifestyle, largely, is funded by your employment. Now, when you leave, you go beyond formal employment. You no longer have a salary. You no longer have that medical scheme. There are certain, you lose a lot of privileges. So why should you maintain the same lifestyle? So you should deliberately undergo what I call a mental deconstruction. Adopt a new mindset, not the mindset, the current mindset that you have, which is shaped by your employment. So that's another mistake, to want to retire with your status. You cannot retire with your status because things have changed, and so you should also change. So those are two significant mistakes that people make. Thinking that your children look after them, and then secondly, wanting to retire with their status.
Awesome. Awesome. How can someone balance, Mr. Kangwa, savings for retirement with the current financial responsibilities that they have, like children's school fees, paying off debt, and also rentals?
There's only one way I know of, and that is making savings as part of your normal budget. Make savings as... Do not think that you are going to save after spending. In fact, most people who think that they will save after spending never save at all. Because usually our needs and wants are worth much more than our income. So if you think that you are going to save after you've spent, you never save anything. So make savings as an integral part of your budget. As you are putting school fees, what also includes savings all the time. That way, no matter how little it is, as long as you are saving regularly, you manage to save. Then when it reaches a certain amount, because savings on their own are meaningless. Because if you put savings in a bank for a long time, what happens? It gets eroded by inflation. So when you save up to a certain point, you can then look for an appropriate investment that will grow the money. That's what you need to. That's when savings makes sense. You cannot be saving for 20 years, you are just putting money aside. You must reach a point where that money now is then invested so that it begins to give you a return, growing the money.
Awesome. So you save and save with a plan to invest in something, not just saving.
No. It will be eroded by inflation. You invest in something so that you continue getting a return. Yeah.
Awesome. So what role do you think pensions, social security or government schemes play, and how reliable are they for the future retirees?
When you are working for, say, 30 years, by the time you retire, 30, 35 years, you are used to getting an income every 4 weeks. When you retire, that income goes away. And if you, for example, you didn't contribute sufficient contributions, for example, if you've been contributing to the National Pension Scheme, and you didn't meet the 180 contributions threshold, it means that you are going to get a lump sum. Nothing beyond the lump sum. And when that money is invested, for example, in a business for which you have no knowledge, the business goes under, you now become a destitute. Now, the role of pension schemes, especially when you meet a certain threshold so that you are able to get a monthly pension, is that at least you are guaranteed that you will not starve. And for all I know, the pension that we get from whichever pension scheme is not for you to build a house, for example. Look at NAPSA, for example. It was established as a basic scheme, not to make you rich, not to make you do something big, no, but just for you to survive, to buy food so that you don't starve, you don't become destitute. So pension schemes are very, very important. I encourage even people who choose not to work after school, I encourage them to find out the modalities of contributing to the pension scheme, because there will come a time when they will not be able to work. Their energy would have dwindled. And that's when that pension makes sense, because it will be coming with no physical involvement. You would have made the contributions whilst you were energetic. Yeah. So pension schemes are very, very important. Yeah.
Wonderful. We now go on a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. In case you have just joined us, you are watching Money Matters, a program designed to equip you with the knowledge and tools to make informed financial decisions. Joining me today in the studio is Mr. Justine Kangwa, a retirement advisor, filling us on how to prepare for a decent retirement. Mr. Kangwa, how should people think about healthcare costs and insurance when planning for retirement?
By the time you retire, your body would have been weak, your strength would have dwindled drastically, and your visits to the health facilities become more prevalent. So when you are planning for retirement, this is one thing that most people do not think about. Visit any of these private insurance companies. They usually have health plans for retirement, because whether we like it or not, it's in retirement that most people start suffering from these non-communicable diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and so on and so forth. And you must know that you'll be very lucky if they don't come, but mostly they'll catch up with you in retirement. And you know, I retired from formal employment in July 2017. That's 8 years, 10 months ago. And I've seen this happen. When you are working, you can actually notice that you are very healthy. You may have a medical scheme as part of your condition of service, but you find that you don't even go to the hospital. You are very fit. But the moment you retire, that's when you just feel that you just develop high blood pressure from nowhere. Maybe it's because of the thought processes or the kind of life that you have to adjust to. You develop all these ailments which will make you visit health facilities more often than not. So when we are planning for retirement, we must think of which health centers will you go to. For example, if you are planning, part of the preparation for retirement will entail that you think about where you are going to stay. Now, do not stay in a place where the nearest health facility is so many kilometers away. You must be near a health facility so that in case you have to go to the hospital, you don't have to go through so much trouble. So 2 ways. One, choose where you're going to stay. Where you're going to stay must be near a health center. And then secondly, put aside some money, also in savings, but also more importantly, invest. I've got a colleague who had to be amputated after retiring. And then he was advised that, this particular medical procedure, cannot be paid for from NIMA. He had to get money from the pocket, but he didn't have money. So they had to sell one of their assets to fund that operation. And that's why it's important that maybe as we are going through life, as you are working, let's have these assets which can easily be converted into cash to take care of such emergencies. But more importantly, I think if you consulted these private insurance companies, most of them have these health policies where they will tell you how much you can be contributing, so that when you retire, you will not be so scared when you die. Because actually, what I've noticed from experience is that when you fall sick, what may kill you is actually the worries where you start thinking, where would I get the money to go to the hospital? That might kill you faster than the disease itself. So whilst you are working, whilst you are energetic, when you think that you are very fit and you can't even imagine falling sick, just know that being sick is something that is bound to come, especially in old age. So we must think about our health status in retirement. Plan for it, set aside some money, invest that money so that you have this return which can help you take yourself to a medical facility and pay for complications or ailments that cannot be funded by the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Great. So what lifestyle adjustments can one make when preparing for retirement for them to be more comfortable without requiring huge savings?
A number of them. For example, we all need to keep fit. And this is something, for example, keeping fit, exercising, is not something that is meant for old people, people who have nothing to do. Keeping fit should actually begin whilst you are working. Let's get into the habit of exercising. No, you are just going to a place which is 100 meters away, you want to drive. We must learn to keep fit, exercise, walk. If you can't work every day because probably you have to wake up very early to go to work, you will knock off late, at least over the weekend. I've got a friend who doesn't have time from Monday to Friday. But when Saturday, she'll work for as long as 10 kilometers every Saturday. So that helps her keep fit. So I think we need to, apart from exercising, we also need to watch what we eat. What you eat in your 20s, 30s, and 40s cannot be the same. You can't maintain the same eating habits when you're old. There are some things that you should tone down on. If you visit a nutritionist, they will advise you what you need to eat. They will tell you tone down on salt, tone down on sugar, tone down on oil. So watch what you eat, exercise. These are very, very important. And have sufficient sleep. I will not say sleep for 8 hours, because even myself, I don't sleep for 8 hours. But at least I make sure that I sleep for 6 to 7 hours, as much as possible. Because when you sleep late, usually that will have an effect on the way your heart operates. So sleep sufficiently, watch what you eat, and exercise.
Awesome. You had talked about savings as one of the important components that someone needs to invest in. And I want you to talk about how important is actually saving and investing in diversifying your investments when you save. How important is that?
Diversification is very important because it helps you take care of the risk component. You've heard the saying that don't put eggs in one basket. Let me tell you what happened to me. I retired, like I said, in 2017. A year later, my wife also retired. I went on a retirement at the age of 47. A year later, my wife also went on a retirement. Now, at the height of load shedding, must have been between 2018 and 2019, thereabout, we lost 72 trays of eggs in an incubator because of power outages. The incubator could not maintain the required temperature for the eggs to mature and hatch. Now, if that was the only investment we had, income earning venture, I'm sure I would have died, gone. So when you invest, choose at least, in fact, I advise people to choose at least three types of investments, because they help you navigate the issue of risks. And when you invest in 3 ventures, for example, my advice is that these 3 ventures should not have the same risk, should not be facing the same risk. You could have poultry, you could also have probably real estate, maybe you have 2-3 flats that give you income. The investment should be different, so that when a risk crystallizes here, at least here you have some comfort that money will come in. Remember, the biggest problem that you are going to face in retirement, that people face in retirement, and I'm speaking from experience, is cash inflow. When you retire, your salary stops coming, but bills continue. Now, when you are on a pension, even that pension will be just a small percentage of what your salary was. If you look at the current, the National Pension Scheme Amendment Act number 68 of 2027 that was recently enacted, the income replacement ratio has been adjusted, increased from 40 to 45%. Now, put simply, if your last salary, that's the simplest I can put, if your last salary was 10,000 kwacha, it means that your pension will roughly be 4,500. Now, if you cannot survive with 10,000 kwacha now, can you survive with 4,500? And that's how come we need to think of other ways instead of just depending on what will come from the pension scheme. The pension scheme, yes, is good. It will be there, consistent, almost assured that it will not collapse. If you look at the National Pension Scheme, for example, the government is the guarantor. If the scheme invests and somehow the investment does not yield what it is supposed to yield, the government will make good of the shortfall. It's good. But let's not neglect our own initiatives. Let's invest whilst we are working, whilst we have the means. Now you can hustle. You can have, in addition to your job, you can do 2-3 other things. That is part of diversification, not just depending on your salary. Because in fact, this you know of Warren Buffett, the American entrepreneur, he says, if your salary is your only source of income, you are only one step away from poverty. Diversification is the way to go. It gives you comfort. It gives you peace of mind. If this doesn't work, these other things are bound to work.
Awesome. So what types of assets are best suited for a long-term investment or long-term retirement security?
I encourage people that when you are working, whilst you have this regular salary every 4 weeks you're earning, that's the best time to invest in government bonds. That's what I say. Government bonds, take the 15-year one, for example, where you know that at least for the next 15 years, you'll be getting this coupon every 6 months. And if you do it, if you started, for example, this is June, let's say you start in July, or let's just say you start next year in January. Because the lowest amount you need, for example, to get into government bonds is 1,000 kwacha. Now, let's assume that you start contributing every month the whole of next year. January, February, say 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. When you start getting those coupons after 6 months, that will go on. That will go on for 15 years every month. So that's one way. That's one good way of investing. And the good thing about government bonds is that you don't have to be physically there. You just put your money there, and then the money will be working for you. And those are the kinds of investment you need whilst in retirement. Remember I said by the time you retire, your energy would have dwindled? Yes. So your capacity to actively earn income will be reduced at retirement. So you want investments where there's little involvement by you. If you can invest into real estate, that's also good. Put 2, 3, 4 flats that will give you an income. As long as you remember one thing, which most of us don't think about, maintain those assets, maintain those flats or those houses. Because if you don't maintain them, you will not be able to attract tenants. Or if you attract them, maybe the chargeable rent will be minimal because of the condition of the property. Yeah. So flats, houses, I think are a good investment so far, because over time, the value of a house will always go up. Huh? Yeah. It will always go up. A house does not really depreciate. If you have a house with 500,000 kwacha this year, chances are that by next year the value will be higher than 500. Yeah. Okay. So you invest in bonds, put up, go into real estate. Yeah. Shares in companies that are performing well, but of course you must consult investment advisors so that they can tell you. You tell them how much money you have ready to invest, then they will tell you what available investments are. Yeah.
Great. Even as we come to the end of the program, lastly, if someone feels they are late in planning for retirement, what practical steps can they take to catch up? Okay.
I know it's normal to feel that you are late, but if you ask me, it's never too late. For as long as you have life and you have good health, you can still turn around your situation. The starting point for me is that you must ask yourself, what kind of lifestyle do I want to lead? That's the starting point. It's okay, my kind of lifestyle is, I can live in a peri-urban area, in a farming, maybe on a farm, or say on a small holding. Okay, maybe I can grow some vegetables so that I reduce the amount of money which is going out, grow some vegetables, do this for myself, keep a few chickens. So define the kind of lifestyle that you want to have in retirement. And then if you need money, for example, and you don't have that money, look around. What is it that you can sell? I always believe that everybody has something that they can sell. And sometimes we ask for things that we already have. Instead of troubling people, troubling your children, even cursing them. So if you don't send money, how do you think we are surviving? Sometimes you just have to look around within your own house or what you have You have a car which has been on stones for 4 years. You don't intend to pay it. Why not sell it off? Sell it off and see how you can use that income to, and look for a suitable investment. Yeah. So it's never too late, according to me. It's never too late for as long as you have life and you have a good health. But the starting point is define what kind of lifestyle you want to lead. That's the starting point. Then begin working towards that lifestyle. Yeah. If you need money, look around. Who can give you money? Sometimes you might be privileged. You have a relative, you have a child, you have an uncle, you have a sibling who can give you maybe startup. Start from there, but be disciplined. Stick to what you plan to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Kangwa, thank you so much for coming through to Money Matters.
You're most welcome.